Okay. We're here with Henning. And first of all, thank you so much for doing this, dude. That is round 2. We had round 1 in Long Beach with many technical difficulties.
Yeah.
So we're just going to do it again.
Sure.
So yes, thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
It's an honor. You're one of my, like tattoo royalty. I think that you're, one of my heroes in tattooing, and it's awesome to get an opportunity to do this interview and hear, kind of how you've come about to be who you are. Yeah. So that being said,
I'm honored to do it.
that being sweet. That being said, what was your first, how did you first get involved in tattooing? How did you first start liking tattoos, or?
I got struck by lightning when I was 13 years old, sleeping over with some friends, and I realized once we were drinking and all that stuff, and getting ready to crash, like one of my buddies had a tattoo, and from that day on, it was just like, it was crazy. I had a tattoo the next week. So like at 13 or 14, I got my first tattoo.
Nice. And who did your first tattoo?
I got it done at the tattoo only shop in New Haven, but by one of the other guys, and I guess he was the most drunk guy around, because I got kicked out of all the other shops, but he's like, yeah, sit down.
Right, at 13.
And coming back the following week to get the second one, but this time the guy was sober, and he's like, I don't want to tattoo you. I'm like, oh, you did one last week, so obviously I got the second one.
Awesome. And so, how long were you getting tattooed before you even thought about tattooing?
I just kept getting them, back. I mean, people weren't sleeved back in the days and all that. It was all like small, one pieces and all that, and I kept bringing in other buddies that were underage, and trying to do the talk with the tattoo, and so they would pay for me to get tattooed and get a new little one.
Awesome.
So this way, kind of smooth.
Right.
The other guy.
The middleman.
Yeah.
You're the tattoo broker.
And then, I guess at 17, it just started becoming very heavy, and I was going for full sleeves, and was hanging it in the shops. In particular, one shop, there was this one guy that said he had the total formula to do the sleeves, not like all that cloud stuff, he knew how to do it, and obviously, he was my hero, so I'm like, let's go.
And he's the one who did your sleeves?
He's the guy who taught me and did my sleeves, yeah.
And what was his name?
Kai. C-A-Y.
Okay. And is he still around?
He's retired now.
Okay.
And he's pretty old now.
And was that where was that at?
That was in the red light district in Copenhagen in 79.
In 79, yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
79 you started tattooing?
Yeah.
I was 8 years old. Awesome.
I was 18.
So, was all the tattooing in Denmark in the red light district? Is that where most of it ended up being?
Yeah, there was 2 places. There was New Haven, which was the old red light district from the 40s, 50s, and then I think mid-70s there was a guy from New Haven that kind of moved to the new red light district that the politicians had kind of moved it
right
out there, which was the neighborhood I grew up in.
Oh, okay.
So
they turned your neighborhood into the red light district.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Before I was born. so suddenly there was the New Haven area that had 5 shops, and then the new red light district that had another 5 shops. So that was pretty much it. That was nothing else.
So 79, and in Copenhagen, I'm sure tattooing was wild.
It was, yeah.
I'm sure it's a little more refined nowadays.
Yeah, totally. I mean, a lot of drinking, and yeah. I mean, drinking came with tattoos,
Right. Well, I mean,
yeah.
Denmark in general, it's you're drinking at 13. It's not like, what I mean? All of that area, it's just drinking at 16 is no big deal. It's just totally okay. Yeah.
You can go and buy booze. They just changed it now, so I think you have to be 16, maybe 18, to actually buy cigarettes and booze. But that was just maybe a year or 2 ago. They changed that, So otherwise, you could send your 8-year-old kid down and buy a 6-pack and cigarettes.
I would be a dead man if that happened in America. I would be dead by now for sure. Oh God, so many people would be dead if that was that way. Or maybe not. Who knows? It seems to work there, right? So was tattooing easy for you? Was it something you found easy to do, or?
I don't know. I was just so obsessed that there was no other way. I just wanted to do it, and luckily the guy Kai, you know, agreed to apprentice me. I was hanging at his shop all the time.
Right.
I was apprenticing as a mechanic at the time.
Nice.
And kept turning in.
Automotive mechanic.
Yes. Turning in sick, you know, not showing up for 2-3 weeks, just hanging at the shop, you know, and finally, you know, the guy's like, you know, I need a guy, you know. So
Right.
he, at the time, he'd started another guy, but he was drafted to the military.
Oh, okay.
So he was like, yeah, he doesn't show up, which was, of course, he was in the military, you know. But Kai didn't see it that way. He just felt like, you know, he's flaking on me, you know. So
Right.
so he, that was that summer of '79, you know, and he started having, you know, I was drawing a lot and all that, and we did like the old school thing where he was doing the line work and I was doing the coloring.
Oh, wow.
So
Awesome.
Yeah.
And how long did you work like that for?
I think only that summer, you know, like, because then I got drafted at the end of the year for only for a couple of months, where I had to leave, and I was more like in the fire department, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So and then coming back, I was working regularly, you know, like.
Right. And then when you came back, did you work with Kai again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you guys stick with doing the shading or whatever? And
No, that changed after that, you know. But it gave me a lot of groundwork, you know.
Right,
like,
sure.
You know, to do the coloring, you know. That was a good way of doing it.
yeah, God, nobody does that anymore. I don't think. I think if anybody you ever hear anybody doing it, they're doing it as like a novelty at a tattoo convention, like.
I think Mike Rubendahl just talked about that the other night. You know, that they do it in New York. Is it Polito's place or whatever? One of the places.
I don't know if anybody else actually works at Polito's place. I think it's just Tony.
Okay. So then it was one of the other places, you know, like.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. I'm sure
Okay.
somewhere there they do it. You know,
Yeah.
like deep in the cuts in New York. I'm sure somebody's doing it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when I was a kid, the nearest place to get tattooed, the real nearest place to get tattooed was Pinky Young. Everybody got tattooed by Pinky Young in San Jose. I grew up in Monterey, and there was a place out by Fort Ord and Marina, but nobody ever went there. I don't know why. I guess maybe because they wouldn't tattoo underage people. Pinky Young shop, no one gave a shit as long as you had money, and his wife was there going like $20.
Yeah.
She yelling at you, dollar amounts, $20. You'd be like, how was this? $5. Yelling at you. They didn't give a fuck how old you were. You could sit in the chair. I think Aaron Kane was like 15. He got a fucking tattoo there. Everybody I knew had a tattoo for Pinky Young because he would tattoo any of the kids.
Do you
But
have
that's
one?
how he did it. He would outline them, and his nephew would color them in.
Okay.
And so my first experiences of tattooing were that was like totally normal behavior. And when I started tattooing, that was not the behavior. But my first experiences of it, that's how it was. Like, total like production line. He would outline, and sometimes he would outline and shade them, and then his nephew would color them in. But a lot of kids that I knew were just getting like, he would just do everything with a big gigantic single and like fill everything with a big gigantic single, and it would just be like this crazy scar. So when did you start, like I know that you had come to the States and stuff like that, but before we get to that, when did you start like really getting like prolific in your tattooing?
I guess 84, 85, you know, I started already in 81. I went to my first convention in England, in Deal. And that was the late Terry Wrigley who put that on, which is Richard Pinch's father-in-law, right?
Oh, really? Oh, fuck, I didn't know that.
he's living with the daughter, yeah.
Oh, no
So,
shit.
so I went to those shows, and I mean, there was a few Americans coming over and all that. And Hanky Panky, Lal Hardy, we were all super young at the time.
Right, sure.
Skinny and young, all of us.
Right.
Yeah, going over there, you know, like, and gave me a lot, you know, and even made more appetite for me to want to do more. And at the same time, I have to remember to tell you that in the red light district, Mike Malone and Candy Everett came by at that time.
Oh, okay.
So they came by and worked in New Haven at a guy named Tattoo Sven's place.
Uh-huh.
But Malone would come to the red light district to see us, you know, and drink beer at night and tell stories. And
Right.
I think he has a big impact. You know, he planted so many seeds in me, like showing all the work he had from Ed Hardy and like, you know, at that time, we just talked about that the other week, showing how to make a Magnum and all that
Right.
back then.
Oh, wow,
But
yeah.
we didn't even have machines to work a Magnum, right? We were only working round shaders.
Okay.
So, but him telling all those stories and showing and make it so interesting, you know, was like, that was my biggest goal, to go out there and I mean, go to the States and meet everybody and get tattooed.
And were tattoo conventions common out there then?
No.
I mean,
But
once a year, twice a year, something like that?
Yeah, once a year. They had that deal show like in 81 and 82, I believe. And I don't recall, I think Hanky Panky had the first show in Amsterdam in 82 as well.
Okay.
That gathered a ton of people, like from all over the place.
Right.
82 or 84, and that's where Greg Irons came to that show, and I got tattooed by Greg Irons.
Okay.
And that's when he went to Thailand afterwards and got killed, so.
Oh man. Oh, you got tattooed by Greg Irons at that show?
Yeah,
Oh shit.
at the Amsterdam show. I believe it was, 82 or 84.
Oh wow. Nice. Greg Irons tattoo. There's a guy who used to hang around the tattoo shop who is the guy who has the great Omi tattoo from
Right? I met him,
from
yeah.
him. Yeah. It's such a cool tattoo.
Yeah.
So then when did you? So was Malone your first introduction to Ed Hardy?
Yeah. He was the guy, you know, at the same time Chris Roblowski from England had put out that Skin Shows book
Yeah.
that had all the Hardy pictures, tattoos in it, you know, and yeah, he totally made it, you know, like this, this was the goal, you know, to try and do the Japanese and do like Hardy was doing.
Right. And so how did you end up coming here? Did you have to write Ed letters? This is an era of letter writing. Yeah,
everybody wrote letters. Like at the time, I think in '84, there was a convention in Buxton, which was the deal show. They stopped doing that, and then there was a guy, Lionel Titchener, that's still around, Oxford Tattoo Club, or Tattoo Club of Great Britain from Oxford.
Yeah.
So he had shows in different cities all over England, and he had one in Buxton in '84, and Ed Hardy was working there. So that's when I met it the first time.
Nice.
So I got
Excellent.
tattooed at that show in England by him there.
Nice.
And Seager Owens was there, and
wow.
he had one of his clients, Dan, I think, who has like 2 samurais with white clothing and all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
I think they were in Tattoo Time.
Oh yeah.
Tattoos,
Okay.
yeah. And the guy with the big snakes and Tahitian.
Oh man, was that Sailor? What the fuck's the guy's name? Those are the coolest fucking legs, man.
Yeah, he was there too.
God, yeah, whatever. It's like Sailor Sid, but that's not. Sailor Sid's the guy with his dick out all the time in pictures. With the dude
The big ring.
yes, exactly. And so when did you come over to get tattooed by Ed?
In '86.
86, you came over.
But like, so seeing all that stuff, I was just so lucky to be around, meeting Malone. Bob Roberts came to Denmark, of course. I can't forget that in '82.
Oh wow!
And worked for a bit. I think he was working out in New York, and then he got fed up with that. You know, like he had those, what's it called? Robbed in New York, and like went on a European trip.
Right.
And of course, as soon that was my hunger. You know, like as soon as I heard he was coming to town, like I'm like whoop, driving down to New Haven. I want a back piece.
Oh really? Yeah. Awesome. Did you get your back done by him?
Yeah, he did a dragon on my back.
Oh, awesome.
I started the outline there. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
So in '82. So I mean,
82.
Seeing all that, and meeting all these people, of course. I mean, they did a very big impression on me.
Awesome.
And at this also in '83, I had moved from the red light district to New Haven, working for Tattoo Oli, who was like the Danish version of Sailor Jerry. You know, I think he was corresponding with Jerry and different people. And that year that I worked that summer, everybody came, like Malone, Candy, Chuck Eldridge, Lance McLean.
Oh wow.
So I mean, and they all had Hardy tattoos.
Getting all of them,
Yeah.
And when you came here, what was your experience like?
Overwhelmed. I mean, that was in '86. So we flew out to do the national show in New Orleans in '86.
Okay.
And everybody again was there, like Don Nolan, Ed Hardy. Everybody was working that show, and that happened to be, I believe, the first year that both I came over, and Luke Atkinson from Checker Demon, and Philip Liu.
Oh wow.
And
okay.
from that show, Philip was actually going over and then working at Hardy's Realistic, with Bill Salmon.
Okay.
So did the show there, and then flew over here, and I stayed here for 3 weeks and had my rib done by Hardy, and just hung out with Bill and Philip at the shop.
Awesome. Like
every day.
marathon sittings or?
Yeah, three days.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And how old was Philip then?
He was, I think he's a few years younger than me, so I was 26 at the time, and I think he was maybe 23, 22, 23.
Awesome.
So at that time, going to Goldfields,
Right.
getting all the stories, and nobody worked sterilized or anything in Europe at that time.
Right.
And that's when like the gloves started, coming and all that. I remember Ed putting gloves on in '84 when he tattooed me in England. I was like, "Oh, what's going on?" Nobody wears gloves.
Right. What the fuck?
But being able hanging here and being around Goldfield, who was super generous again with information about how to sterilize, and
Right.
everybody
He
was
serious about that
everybody
stuff.
was doing their own needles back then.
Right.
Like carbon needles, and you know that when you sorted those, and didn't do the right tricks, then it would rust and all
Right.
that. So I was fortunate to, when I came home from over here, to be able to start working sterilized and all that. So
Right. I mean, and how long do you think after that did Europe catch on to it?
within the next couple of years, I think it all happened, but of course in the beginning, like anything else, people were cheating and just putting their gloves on and pretending, like changing the tube and needle and put it aside and put another one.
Right,
and all
of
that.
course.
So, yeah.
I mean, I started tattooing in '89, and it was just, new into the glove world.
Yeah.
Definitely new into the glove world. Everybody had the pepper finger.
Yeah.
Everybody. I was just talking to Greg James
Yeah.
at the show, and his finger's just fucking crazy looking.
Yeah. I had a
And-
few of those too. Yeah.
yeah, his is like it's like a constellation. It's the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, it's just insane that was a reality of like tattooing without gloves.
And
So-
back then, when you got introduced to the gloves, you're like, oh, I can't. I need to feel the skin, with my hand and all that. And now, try to make a tattoo without a glove on, it's
It's
the opposite,
gross,
right? It's like
super gross. Yeah,
I could never do that.
yeah. I get bummed out when your wrist gets in it.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
fuck. God damn it. Yeah. So, did you come in back and forth to the States a lot, or?
Yeah, I met all those guys in '86, and Sailor Cam worked out of Henry Goldfield's.
Yeah.
He had a lot of Greg Irons tattoos and Hardy tattoos, and he would come on his bicycle to Realistic while I was hanging out. So we became good friends. He was making machines, and I'd been playing with machine making at home and all that. So we really had something in common there. So he invited me to come out the following year, and by then he was working in Seattle at the P.A. Stevens shop, the Seattle Tattoo Emporium.
Right.
So I went up there for a couple of months and hung
awesome.
out. And again, I was so lucky because at that time, J.D. Crowe had all those different shops around the country, Inch and Art. And there was a shop 30 miles out of Seattle in Everett that the guy that worked it, didn't work out, so he got fired. So Malone came to town
Awesome.
and took it over and started working that, and with Terry Tweed. So again, hanging for a month and a half with Terry Tweed and Mike Malone on a regular basis, and I think that was the time where Malone was playing. They'd done the cutback liners and all that, but he started doing like the Rollomatic,
Right.
like a different setup than the normal cutback. So I got one of the first machines from him there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I have a real early one, but it's from like Texas or something like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow. Fucking cool.
And he like, hey, I think you should have one of those, and made it with Danish flags on the coils and all that, and super cool, and then tattooed me with it.
Oh, awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, I regret never getting tattooed by Malone. That's one of my great regrets.
About what?
Not getting tattooed by Malone. I never got tattooed by him. Because every time I was around him, he was like not tattooing. He was like here taking care of his wife. He was at the convention not tattooing, selling machines.
Yeah.
I was just talking last night about how when I started tattooing, him and Scott Sylvia would be selling machines, and they had all the Bulldogs and all that stuff, and he was selling his Rollomatics and stuff. And Scott Sylvia was selling the Jonesies, and it was like $500 a machine. This is '91 or something like that, And $500 a machine was a lot for me back then. Like to cut $500 for a machine was serious business.
Yeah.
And I never got one, and I regret it. I finally have now successfully got each one of those machines I wanted, except for that era of a Bulldog. I don't have a Sterling built Bulldog.
Yeah, I got the first one that him and Malone came out with, like the Jerry frame.
Right, the bucket of machine thing.
Texas in '89, and yeah, 500 or maybe 650 or.
Yeah, they were a lot. There was a lot back then. It was a lot, and people were buying them, and they were a very important machine.
Yeah.
And I never got that dude to buy them. Though. That was a bummer.
I have the biggest regret. When I was in Seattle, end of my trip up there, I'd gotten to Chinatown, got a Daruma book. Malone sees it. He's like, "Oh my God, can I have copies? Sure. It's like, I want you to tattoo that Daruma on me." And I just didn't have the. I was like, "No, please, I'm not good enough." Like I was just backing out. Imagine that. It's
Right.
fucking crazy.
Oh man. When did you? It's fun, dude. When did you come back out? And I know the story, and so I want to make sure that you tell the story about the story of you and Paul Rogers.
That happened at the same trip with Sailor Camp. I'd been corresponding with Paul, and bought a liner from him, like a Matt B liner. And then at that same trip we went down for a week, staying with Paul and building machines with him.
And what was that like?
That was amazing. He was such a nice man. I mean, we're total strangers, but yet, just from the corresponding, like, he remembered everything, and he just treated you so good. He stayed at his trailer.
Oh, nice.
And going to dinners every day, and just hanging out, and go. Some of the nights we would go to Inksmith and Rogers and see Eric and Debbie there, and it was amazing.
And did you guys build a lot of machines, or?
Yeah, we built one each, and there was a couple from Cologne where Luke apprenticed. A couple named Dieter and Anke. They'd ordered a couple of machines, so we did those as well. And funny enough, apparently I'd forgotten, like that. Cam and I did like a frame for Paul at the end. We called the artist proof, and we painted it gold without coils, but did like the whole frame and engraved it inside and out and put all kinds of stuff on it. And Mike Wilson and Jimmy from Lucky's turned out last year at the San Francisco show and like, "Hey, check it out, we got this machine. We think you did this frame." And in the beginning I'm like, "Really?" And then of course suddenly it came to me like,
oh man, and they have it.
They have it, and they restored it because the back shelf was kind of like not quite there, but Jimmy machined it so it worked. And then they put it together, and this year Mike actually came and said, "Hey, please, you should try it out." So I actually got to try it out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Excellent, man. That's pitching. And what year was this?
This is '87.
Okay, all right. And when did you open Royal?
In '83.
83. Okay.
Yeah.
And so this year coming up is 30 years.
30 years next year, yeah.
Jesus Christ. And what made you want to open your own shop?
I think that was like working in the red light district. Like it was a lot of beer and partying and all that, and again, having all those seeds planted. I wanted to do what Hardy was doing and Bob Roberts and all that. So I was just I wanted to make it more serious.
Right.
And I met this other guy, that was working at Tattoo Only at the time, and he kind of wanted the same, so. And back then, you just didn't go around opening up shops, like.
Right.
So we found this spot like way out of town, up north, like this little town, which is like a tourist town, Helsingborg, that attracts a lot of tourists. We have a famous castle there, and we're very close to Sweden, where there's boats going back and forth, and all the Swedes are coming on a regular basis, and buying beer and all that stuff,
Right.
So we decided to open up the shop up there and make it more serious, if you could say that.
Right, and it's been through how many incarnations now?
What does that mean?
Like how many times? Like I know you just redid the shop again since I've been there.
Yeah. I mean, we had at first we came to town, and the only spot available, we were like, "Yep, let's take that," and that turned into like the biggest, partiest place in town, like, because suddenly having a tattoo shop in town, like
right.
the old pub, which was like a crummy place, started having a bouncer on the weekends because everybody was just going crazy in
Right.
that whole area there, or like section where we were placed and all that. So
Is it still in the same place?
no, then we got kicked out because there was too much noise and shit. So we lasted there 4 years, and then moved, like worked on the Saturday, and then moved up like with a little trailer. You know, we pushed things up like 300 yards up the road, and have gotten another location and opened up on the Monday.
Oh, nice.
And
that's the same place you're
that's
in
the same place, you know. So like trying to remodel it, you know, and make it into a tattoo shop. You know, we were sitting working at the same time, you know that. So
now? Right. And now the shop now, in current time, you have a good staff of people there, correct?
yeah, yeah.
How many people work there now?
We're 5 at the moment,
Right.
but all foreign people, like Americans and a French guy, and 2 Americans and a French and a Brazilian guy.
Nice.
And I've had 2 Italians as well, but they decided to move back home.
Right. And the shop's obviously busy. It's
Yeah,
got to be busy.
Yeah.
And are you super booked up?
Yeah. I mean, I'm in that lucky situation, you know, being there that long, and
Right.
and you know, people want to get tattooed, and I book every 6 months and just try and keep it down, so it's not like you're like, oh yeah, come back in 2 years and all that, you know, that
Right.
kind of turns people off. So
Sure.
So that's kind of the system I'm doing at the moment.
And so, how long have you been tattooing technically?
33 years, right?
33 years.
Yeah.
So this is the question that when I ever thought I was ever going to even get an interview from you, this is the question that I've always wanted to ask you. And I'm sure a million people want to know this too. 33 years, and I see you at tattoo conventions around the world, and I see you working, and you are not, there's not one shortcut. There's not one lackadaisical thing. You've never like coasted. You're not like, oh, I'm just comfortable in this thing. I'm just going to do this one fucking thing, which is what 90% of tattooers do. They get lazy and complacent. How have you managed, after 33 years, to still be super stoked on tattoos and to stay really productive?
I don't know. I mean, it's that crazy sparkle that hit me when I was 13. You know, like I just still have it. You know, and I know the minute that disappears, it's not going to be fun anymore.
Right.
But somehow, you know, like I love tattoos. You know, and I'm still to that day. Like I remember back in the day when I was a kid. You know, like after, like or teenager. You know, like any tattoos on the street. You know, I would get ready to crash on my bike because I wanted to check that tattoo out, and it's still the same to this day. You know, I'm so curious, you know, with it, and it's not something you can pretend or
No.
because it gets
No, it's
super
not.
sour, you know, like so I'm just fortunate that I love it, and I guess being around all these cool people, like meeting Mike, I guess 15 years ago, Rubendahl, you know, he was, of course, I mean, I'm way older than him, but he has the same sparkle, you know, like, and I mean, that's been rubbing off on me, and I kind of went through a new era, you know, like it started all over again, you know, and we were chasing the same goals, you know.
Right.
So.
And do you, I mean, I've been tattooing, I guess, 23 years, 22 years. And I'm terrified of all of a sudden one day not loving it. Like, I am fucking terrified of it. Because I love tattooing. Yeah. I love tattooing as much now as I did the day I started tattooing.
Yes.
I mean, I like the customers the same or whatever, but I love tattooing. I love going to tattoo conventions. I love seeing people that are fucking awesome. That, like, when you see that dude that's been tattooing for like 6 years and he's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit. Fuck that dude, he rules, man. And you're like, part of you is a little bit jealous, but I refuse to get upset about it. I just think, man, that is so good, awesome, that dude is good. And you have seen so many, like, returns in tattooing, that tattooing, I think, I want your opinion about this, is people starting tattooing now are so fucking good.
Yeah.
Like, the learning curve is.
I mean, back in the day, I mean,
roof.
10 years didn't mean nothing, you know, like I was tattooing, the first, I mean, I didn't start getting anything, you know, like, I mean, I guess 8-9 years into it, you know, like, it was still struggling because any information, anything, you know, like you had to go all the way over here to grab just a little thing.
Right.
And that's what it is today. I mean, today everybody just gets it handed like the first, right away.
Right. All the information, all the good
Yeah.
needles, with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
good machines to buy,
Yeah,
good tubes
yeah.
to use. Right. Instead of struggling. And I remember when I've said this probably before in an interview, is I'd been tattooing 2 years before I got the name and the number to the needle people.
Yeah.
You know, they were the people in Texas or whatever. It was Colonial Needle.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Colonial Needle. You called, and it was like this old ass man would answer the phone. It was obviously their house, and you would buy all the loose needles from them. But other than that, you were stuck buying needles from Spalding or National, and they were a fucking grip of money then. And just for loose needles. I mean, I couldn't even imagine what buying soldered needles from one of those companies would have been like back then.
No.
And now that's just, nobody even knows how to make needles.
No.
I was tattooing Seth last night and we were talking about it, and he's like, I think no one knows how to make needles anymore. I was like,
We do.
I was like, yeah, only, like, I know how to.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a huge generation of people that, and I'm disappointed in it because I really, really enjoy the craft of tattooing. Because there was a part of tattooing when, and correct me if I'm wrong, where tattooers weren't generally great artists.
Right.
They were craftsmen,
Yeah,
right? So
sure.
that's the whole foundation of Flash was that you didn't have to draw. They picked it off the wall. You had to reproduce it, so you had to be able to get a good line work, good shading, and good color. You didn't have to be able to draw the fucking design.
No.
You just acetated that baby on there and let it rip, you know? And so I really appreciate the craft. I also, in turn, love the art of it because it is solely its own art. Like, people can, you know, can try to draw, but when tattoos look right, they have their own shapes, they have their own things. But how do you feel about the craft being gone?
It's disappointing, you know, like, and it's weird. Again, like, they don't appreciate it like we do.
Right.
I don't know if they love it as much as we do. I mean, we would do anything for this trade
Right.
to keep it, you know, but it's getting too easy
Right.
to just get all that information, you know, and I mean, treasure hunting like we did back in the day, like just to get the right machine or like colors or
Right.
just to get one bottle of green from a special person or whatever, but it was like the best thing of the year.
Right.
So it's I think we all think it's too easy, you know, like how people get the information now, because also they just keep, you know, they don't keep it to themselves. If you get it easy, you know, you give it away easy, right?
Right. Sure. Definitely. You know, that's a fine point.
And
That's a very fine point.
It loses its mystery with that we all love.
Right. That's a very fine point. I think like, I have never apprenticed anybody. I've never, and it was super hard for me to learn how to tattoo. Like, I got an apprenticeship supposedly, but I wasn't given any information. I wasn't even allowed to, like, know where my equipment came from. I used all my boss's equipment forever, and it took me, I probably worked for him a year and a half, maybe more, before I ended up with my own set of machines and my own power supply.
I mean, this is exactly
And now it's like nothing. I mean, all that shit is just given to people, and I think that everybody just apprentices everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Do you have any idea why this happens?
No, I don't know, because I I've never had an apprentice either, you know, and
33 years you never had an apprentice.
no, and I don't think I ever will, you know, it's I think I have such, I'm so old school, like I'm keeping everything to
Right.
myself, you know. I have a hard time giving up anything, you know,
Right.
so which would be bad for an apprentice, you know, like so.
Well, that makes me very happy and sad and the same thing. It makes me happy because I love that you're just like, yeah, fuck that.
Yeah.
But then it's sad too, because you, of all people, I feel like I think that the people that are actually talented and the people that actually know how to do the job and actually know what the important parts of the job are, should be the people teaching people how to tattoo. And it's sad because all the people that are teaching people how to tattoo are not the people that should be teaching people how to tattoo.
No, in
They're-
most cases not.
Yeah, 90% of the time. I mean,
Yeah.
we all know people that have had multiple apprentices, and I think it's more of an ego stroke
I think that's so true. You know, like that makes them look better.
Right.
But again, you also know that story it ends with the apprentice knowing more than the teacher, you know, and then they have a big falling out and they
always
leave,
and then you get a new apprentice because you need to replace that person, and generally you're an asshole, and that's why you can't keep anybody around.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, really.
So I mean, basically, if one ever had an apprentice, you know, like you would need to teach to treat that person with respect, you know, and not treat him like a slave.
Right, of course.
And that to kind of get the mutual respect, you know, because it's gonna turn around one day.
Right. It always does.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, people like I think American people try to have an apprentice like how Japanese people have apprentices, where they basically are kind of indentured servants, but it's not our culture.
No.
Like that is not our culture. That is the Japanese culture, and
they
the
stick.
white man does not have the spirit to be able to do that.
No.
You know
But
what I mean?
in Japan, they stick with their teacher.
Fuck yeah, they do.
Yeah, that's
because
what
it's part of their culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be a fucking shocking embarrassment for them not to. You know what I mean? It is a huge social undertaking to leave, right? I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Um,
And you know, I mean, with an apprentice, you know, they'll do anything for you, lick your toes and shit in the beginning,
right.
and at the end, you know, they only have spit
Right.
left for you. You know,
Right. Yeah. That's a great thing. That's the great thing.
It's just, you know, and they'll go around the corner and open up a shop.
Right,
You know,
'cause
so
they don't
and
care
I mean,
about it.
we've heard that 1,000 times as well.
Right. 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 And there are so many tattoo shops now.
Yeah.
How do you feel about all the tattoo shops? I mean, are there a ton in Helsingborg now or no?
Helsingborg, yeah. I mean, there's 4 shops now in Helsingborg, right?
Really? In that little town?
One of them, there's a guy that went over here, and supposedly he was in high school over here for like a year, and had done drawings and all that. You know, goes into a shop, and right away the guy's like, yeah, I'll give you an apprenticeship in America. So the kid ends up sitting there. He's like 18 years old. I don't know how many tattoos he does there, like 10, 15, 20. And then the guy's like, you know what, I already have 2 apprentices, you know, so, and they don't have too much work, so I think it's a bad idea teaching you. But at that time, the kid already has machines, everything. So he moves back to Denmark, and then he comes asking if he can have a job at my place. Like, I'm like, listen, I don't take apprentices. But I could make coffee and stuff here, you know. I'm like, no, I have my girls to do that, you know, so.
Right.
Which is like, and he's like, well, if I could just hang around for a few months. I'm like, well, then I'm giving you the blue stamp on what you're doing is right. And at the time, the kid doesn't know anything about sterilization. He doesn't know anything. He might have done 30 tattoos. Turns around, opened up the shop. So we have a guy, but again, his thing was, you know, he could say like, well, to the newspaper, the local newspaper, like, well, I was in the States, you know, I apprenticed in America by one of the best artists. Nobody can check it out.
Right.
And then, you know, like people eat it up, you know, and that's it. So I guess he'll just get his experience along the way.
It's a long road. It's a very long road. I think it's a long road. Who are the current day people that inspire you? Like people you're like, holy shit.
I mean,
Like I know one of them's out there.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
In a
you're one of them. Like, I mean, and I guess that's why I do all these trips, you know, like to see all you guys, and because I'm in this little hole where we only see the people we tattoo. So like getting to see what you're doing, and everybody here at the shop, and like the guys in New York, Mike and Grace and Chris O'Donnell, all the people from State of Gravy. I mean, there's people all over, you know, like.
Right.
Of course, you know, I have favorites, you know, but there's so many now. It's
Right. True. No,
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
I mean, look at that. Look at Dan Weissop, dude. Jesus Christ. What the fuck?
totally. I mean, that's why you start naming, you know,
Yeah.
it would go on.
That Tattoo Artist magazine thing. Holy shit. I haven't even read it or nothing. I'm just looking at the pictures like, god damn, man,
Yeah.
look at this kid.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus, he's
Yeah.
been tattooing no time. He's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Which is awesome, man. Make it even better, he's a super nice person.
On top of
He's
that,
a
yeah.
great person. So you can't even be like, man, what a dick, you know?
No.
Because he's such a nice kid.
No.
Like, man, he's not even a kid anymore. He's a man. So you travel a lot?
Yeah, I try to get out every second, third month, you know, like go out for a couple of weeks and just see my friends all over the place.
Do you do a lot of European conventions?
I do, what do? I do Milan, London, Stockholm. Yeah, so like 3 a year.
Nice. Is it how would people be able to, like in the States, be able to get tattooed by? Would they email you and find out?
Email me at the shop, like.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd be happy to do it.
Happy to do a tattoo. Is there any other stuff you want to add, or any like? I mean, I got the answer to what I wanted, and it was fortunately a very simple answer. But it's complex. It's very complex.
It's just,
but simple.
I mean, I feel so happy that I have that sparkle, and like you said,
Right.
it's my biggest fear that I wake up one morning and it's not there.
Right.
And I mean, I'm so fortunate to have a wife that supports me in everything, and even when I'm like, there's so much preparation, when I have to travel and all that, I'm like, I should just stay home, and she's like, listen, I don't want you to stay home. Because
kick bricks.
but getting that happy person home, like
Right.
and the energy I have when I'm coming home, like spending time out and about, like
Right.
so it just gives one so much.
All right. Oh, I have a question for you. My last question for you, and I ask everybody that's a dad and that's a tattooer. How has fatherhood changed your tattooing?
I'm very emotional these days, like we.
No, I know.
I don't know. It's just suddenly. I mean, we all have this love for what we do, and suddenly we have most of us has our wives and all that we love, but suddenly, like getting the kids, like it was hard in the beginning, because you used to just be able to do your work and pull back to your drawing room.
Right.
And all that, and bury yourself, and suddenly you have to take care of a lot of other things,
Right.
like changing diapers and all that, and it was kind of hard being torn, and then suddenly it just becomes like I mean, you get used to it, right?
Yeah.
But I guess I remember being even more cautious with sterilization and all that once I got him,
Right.
because I didn't want to come home like washing up thoroughly, after work and all that, and I didn't want to come home and be dirty.
Right.
And just in general, like being super soft and emotional, and
Right.
so I don't think anything else.
Yeah. With mine, it made me really appreciate when I could just sit down, because outside of here it's fucking crazy, right? You're at home, there's all these things, and school and lunches and homework and all the shit. Like there's just shit going on constantly. Bedtime, baths, and stuff you gotta do, all the routine. And it makes me enjoy so much the time when I just get to sit down and do nothing but this tattoo. It makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Like it has given me a happiness in tattooing that I would never have had if I'd never had kids.
Right.
Because I would still be like hustling and doing the thing and whatever and this and that. And I think it's really made me like settle down in my seat and just single point focus on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That makes me very grateful.
But it's the same thing. Like I don't think we realize how much our wives are doing.
Oh.
What they're dealing with on a
Right.
daily basis, from 6 in the morning till
Right.
8, 9 o'clock till the kids are in bed, and we're just going to work, but you're right, like being away from home and just being able to do what you love, and nothing disturbs you, that's great.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.